Welcome back, Right Side Broadcasting Network. We are here live at CPAC 2022. This is day 2, end of the day. I'm Grace Saldana, joined by Joe Pinion, running for U.S. Senate in
Good
New
to be
York.
here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And you are running against the infamous Chuck Schumer.
Absolutely. So trying to cure America of our Chuck Schumer problem. 24 years in the United States Senate, 42 years in Congress. At some point in life, you have to start wondering, how do we not realize that term limits aren't just preferable, they're completely necessary.
Absolutely. Term limits are necessary, and it should be enacted nationwide. And one thing about Chuck Schumer is you are the polar opposite. He's a career politician, and we were just talking about your background, and you used to have a show on Newsmax.
Right.
And so you came from a safe job, and you took the risk to run for office.
Right. Well, I remember I went and I told my mother I was quitting my job on Newsmax, and when she was done crying, she asked me why, and I told her what I tell everyone now. There's some things in life worse than not having your own TV show. It's called not having the country, and I truly believe that we are on the precipice of not having an America that is consistent with what our founders intended. And so when you look at seniors that just watched the largest increase in the generation from Social Security be wiped out due to runaway inflation, due to the runaway printing of money, to deal with a virus of foreign origin for which we have yet to hold the nation of origin accountable. When you talk about the fact that we have a actual onslaught of homicide all across this country. 12 cities hit all-time highs for homicide. We have shootings in New York City up 90%, homicide up 30%, all because of the three most dangerous words ever uttered in modern politics: defund the police. Well, who is responsible for all of this pain and suffering? It is Chuck Schumer. He is the architect of all that has gone wrong in society. And so, we tell people, whether you're left of Bernie Sanders, whether you're right of Donald Trump, Chuck Schumer's fingerprints are on everything that's gone wrong in society. And so whether you live in Arizona, whether you're a native New Yorker, if there's one race where we can make the biggest difference, is to make sure that we build that uncommon coalition and put Chuck Schumer in the retirement home of politics once and for all.
You know what, Joe, I can already tell you are a firebrand. You are going to do so well in your campaign, so I'm very excited for that. And what will you do differently from Chuck Schumer? I know you're the polar opposite, but tell us exactly what you will do on your first day in office.
Well, look, the first day in office, making sure that government is not held to a lower standard than the private sector. When you look at something as basic as public housing, the largest slumlord in America is not a millionaire or a billionaire, as Bernie Sanders would have you believe. It is New York City public housing, home to 500,000 souls, larger than all of Miami-Dade proper, larger than the city of Boston. 500,000 people call New York City NYCHA housing home. It is $40 billion behind in repairs, and that doesn't turn it into the Taj Mahal. That just makes sure that the elevator ride doesn't kill you.
Right.
Doesn't make sure you don't get rained on while you sleep. And so, we are committed to making sure, issue by issue, that we have a government of the people, by the people, starting with something as basic as our southern border. We've gone from the securest border in recorded history under President Trump to an open sesame policy on the southern border. They call it Ellis Island. It is an island of death that has become the access point for Chinese cartels to team up with Mexican cartels and have enough fentanyl crossing our southern border to kill every man, woman, and child that calls this nation home. And so for me, when you look at day-to-day reality, the leading cause of death for people 18 to 45 in America today is fentanyl overdoses, and those people don't want to take fentanyl. There are unsuspecting drug users taking counterfeit prescription drugs laced with a lethal concoction so that Chinese cartels and Mexican cartels can get rich. And so for me, it's quite simple. If I walked into a bar, asked for a beer, and they handed me cyanide, that would be murder. We have uncounted numbers of unindicted co-conspirators who have congressional pins because they have refused to close our southern border. And now we have urban mothers and suburban mothers alike forced to bury their children because we have a government that has not protected the children that call this nation home, the adults that call this nation home. It's a crime against humanity. We need to put that first.
Absolutely, and it hurts the heart of New York City the most. And New York is supposed to be a beautiful, historic city that people go to. It is the first thing a lot of people think of around the world is New York.
Right.
And it's just shocking what's going on. And like you mentioned, the southern border, Joe Biden is leaving it wide open for everyone to come to. And that's going to hurt the urban cities the most because the people who get out and take those drugs, the criminals, they're going to flock to these cities to have policies that are not tough on crime.
Well, look, let's be very clear. You talk about New York supposed to be this progressive bastion of the world. It is the epicenter for all things bad. It is the epicenter for under-indexing for all things good. 3 out of 5 black children that call the Bronx, New York home live in poverty. 1 out of 3 black children in the entire state of New York are living in poverty. So when, again, we went through a period at the height of COVID where 100% of the people that were shot or killed were black and brown people, all while the senior senator for our state, the U.S. Majority Leader for the nation, went down to D.C. kneeling in the Capitol Rotunda in African kente cloth talking about justice. The mother of the 11-month-old shot in the face, I don't think she thinks justice was served. The parents of those individuals, those children who found themselves trapped in their apartments, not being able to live freely in the streets, I don't think they call that justice. So issue by issue, when you have women who work for Deloitte, Asian women being subbed in front of subway cars, that is a crime against humanity. That is the injustice and the pain that people are experiencing. That is why New York State, the once empire state, leads the nation in outward migration. 1 million people have voted with their feet and left over the last 10 years. And it's not because they simply want to get a tan in the Sunshine State. It's because Florida is the only place where freedom continues to ring. We need to make sure that the opportunity that working class people deserve is actually bestowed on the working class people still trapped in the former glorious state of New York.
Absolutely, that's an incredible message, and we need to make New York Florida. I mean, we need to return freedom back to the city. It wasn't that long ago where Rudy Giuliani was the mayor of New York City.
Well, the irony, right? You look at something like that. Florida is still America. We need to make the rest of America what it always was and intended to be.
Exactly.
And so this is what our message is for people to go to joepinion.com to help us out with $1 at a time, to come up to be a volunteer, send text messages, make calls, Pittenger messages, smoke signals. All of it helps us do what we need to do, because no matter where you live in America, Chuck Schumer truly is the linchpin for the pain Americans are experiencing all across this country. And if there's one race that we can make a difference, where we had law enforcement have the most dangerous year to be a police officer, be 2021, 125% increase in ambush killings. It all leads back to the doorstep of one man in D.C. His name is Chuck Schumer, because he was supposed to be the adult in the room, and he was more worried about a primary from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez than he was with keeping the American people safe, empowering law enforcement to do their job, and keep the public intact. And so that's why we got in this election, to make it known that the people of New York have a chance to have a choice for the first time in 24 years, and we invite the entire American public to join us in this grassroots quest.
And tell them what day voting is.
So obviously November 8th is obviously election day for all of us. Hopefully, by the grace of God, this coming Monday, I will be the Republican nominee for the state of New York. If we get all the county chairs together on Monday for our state convention. I'm leaving here tonight. Tomorrow, I will be accepting the Conservative Party nomination. So we have the entire conservative movement rowing together in New York State. We need the entire conservative movement rowing together as a nation to paint the town red, to lead with one voice, that what you see in Ukraine is not an accident. It is what happens when America flees from the helm of leadership. When you stick your head in the sand and ignore the obvious, which is that America has to lead. Which is that when you tell Vladimir Putin that you're getting out of the fuel business due to ridiculous timelines for energy, you shouldn't be surprised when he decides he wants to go into the gas station business on a much larger basis.
Basement Biden. He's hiding out and he wants to put America last.
He was hiding in the basement. He created a window of opportunity, and Vladimir Putin drove a tank through that window, and Ukrainians are getting killed.
Yep, Ukrainians getting killed, and they may not have a country left in the next couple of weeks. It could be, exactly what we saw in Afghanistan. They let the Taliban take over, or letting Russia take over Ukraine. What's next? China's going to take over Taiwan?
We have seen the strength of America first. We are witnessing the reality of America last. When you have the president of Ukraine that gets on a Zoom with world leaders and says, "This may be the last time you see me alive. There should be no more indelible imprint on the mind of the people of the world, the citizens of the world, to know that what has happened here is a disaster." When woke goes viral in a foreign policy standpoint, everything goes to hell in a handbasket. And this is what we're seeing right now, where the world knows they can't depend on America, where even our allies are hedging their bets between Russia and Germany. Germany maybe kind of shutting down the pipeline with Russia, but also not necessarily wanting to go as far as getting rid of the SWIFT banking that allows Russia to still conduct business. When you create this gap, this moral equivalency, you create turmoil. And we are actually the inheritors of the pain and suffering of the left gone awry. Wokeness on steroids is about to destroy the world order as we know it.
And that's the theme of this conference, awake, not woke.
Absolutely. Well, we should be eyes wide open. We have a president whose eyes are wide shut. And as a result, we see the pain and suffering that Americans are enduring, that Ukrainians are enduring. And our goal in this cycle is to restore sanity, to restore common sense, to restore common purpose, to build an America that works for every single American once again.
Well, Joe, you convinced me. So how can people find your website?
Go to joepinion.com. You can find me on Twitter, Joseph Pinion, the whole word. Instagram, I am Joe Pinion. But again, every little bit helps. We are going to build a nationwide coalition because you can help us beat Chuck Schumer no matter where you live. We get all those messages. I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in Florida. Thoughts and prayers, praying for you. You can do more than pray. You can help us. You'd be surprised what one text from one person in a state far away can do to send a message that we can end Chuck Schumer's reign, not only just New York, but for the country.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will have you back on soon.
Thank you so much. God bless.
God bless.